All right, what's up, guys? All right, so today I'm going to be talking about disattachment. So, if you're familiar with like Hindu and Buddhist type stuff, um, knowledge, there's a lot of talk about being unattached, disattachment. Attachment leads to suffering. Therefore, if you become attached to things, you will suffer because of it, so on and so on. Now, disattachment is also a part of the idea of ego dissolution or ego dissolving, ego destroying, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of people have said that destroying the ego or getting rid of the ego simply isn't possible. And this is true. The ego can't be gotten rid of, completely at least, because the ego comprises your entire persona and narrative and everything. The key, most primal point of the ego is the awareness of separation between self and other. So to get rid of the ego is to get rid of the awareness of self. And if you're not aware of self and other, you sort of just not able to engage with reality anymore. For instance, right now, I am aware of self, this face, this body, right? And um this allows me to understand that I am here, the camera is there, and I am speaking to people beyond that camera. This video is being uploaded somewhere. People are clicking buttons and watching and so on. I'm able to interact here because of my awareness of this and that. So you can't really get rid of ego, but you can get rid of a lot of components of the ego. There's a lot of things that the ego possesses that isn't necessary for it to possess. Now, my ability to be aware of self is intrinsic or inherent, not necessarily inherent, or it's necessary. The narrative is necessary. A narrative is necessary in order for me to function within the world. But all components of the narrative, all components of the self isn't necessary. So now, through disattachment, I can become unattached to many components of the self. And this brings me to a state that's closer to ego dissolution or ego annihilation or ego dissolving. Now, the thing is this: if you desire to be unattached and to dissolve the ego, that ends up being a desire as well. So, if I become desperate or if I become super adamant that I must be detached, then I will inadvertently become even more attached because I'm attached to the idea of being unattached. So disattachment becomes an attachment. So the true way to become disattached is to not desire to be disattached, which means that when attachment arises, you simply shouldn't care. Instead, you become aware of it. You understand, oh, this is an attachment. And then you can understand whether that attachment is necessary for a particular function or if it's unnecessary. And now, if the attachment that's arising is unnecessary, instead of shooing it away and being, I can't be attached, you simply allow it to fall because many of these feelings and thoughts arise and fall, and your attachment is what causes it to persist. So when an attachment arises and you acknowledge this is unnecessary, just let it fall naturally and return to a state of less attachment rather than forcing yourself to be unattached or forcing yourself to be attached or allowing yourself to be attached to things that you simply don't have to be attached to. You can enter a state of flow where attachments and desires simply rise and fall fairly quickly. Um, the attachment arose, you realized I don't need to be attached to this, so it fell, and you return to this state of less attachment. Now, if this is the case, then this means that at times there will be reasons to be attached, and the truth of that attachment, which is the attachment will lead to suffering, remains true, but you can ask yourself, is it worth it? So, for instance, I saw this documentary of a Buddhist woman who was at a female Buddhist monastery, and part of her training was to become unattached, which meant she had to leave behind her family. And she ended up suffering because part of her training was to not engage with her children. And at times she felt that she really wanted to engage with the children. She wanted to see her children. She wanted to spend time with them. But she convinced herself that she needed to be unattached. Now, the whole point of being unattached is to let go of these things that cause suffering. If the practice of being unattached is leading to suffering, then you're defeating the fucking purpose. Like, it makes no sense anymore. My idea is to become unattached to everything unnecessary. And if you have children and you want to engage with those children, forcing yourself to be disattached from your children is only another attachment. And if you're developing suffering because of that, then you're defeating the entire purpose of disattachment. So you, in this case, you should be disattached from the idea of being attached and from the idea of being disattached, and you should just accept your primal desire to engage with your children. And my idea for her would have been, hey, if you want to see your children and spend time with your children, there's nothing wrong with that. Go do that. Just do that. Like the attachment to disattachment isn't necessary. There's nothing wrong with spending time with your kids or your loved ones, your family, your significant other, your whatever it may be. Desires aren't evil. The having desires is not a sin. Hold up, guys. So yeah, guys. So ultimately, the thing is this: um, practicing disattachment is beneficial, but in order to truly be disattached, you need to be disattached from the idea of disattachment as well. And you need to be aware that this does not mean that you can never be attached to anything. It's just that if you're attached to something, it should be according to your will rather than just circumstance or, something that's just placed on you or that arose and you became attached to unintentionally or unwillingly. So, for instance, I think I am very disattached But I believe that if I have a significant other, I can allow myself to be attached to them, even though attachment brings suffering or elements of suffering. I'm okay with that in under the in that context under those parameters, right? This is my significant other. I'm okay with being attached to this person, even if it means there will be some suffering at some point because of it. And if I have kids, likewise. I don't believe that I need to be disattached from my significant other, my family, my kids, my, you know, these types of things. I'm okay and willing to be attached to these things. So yeah. Now, hold on. Now, um, some things that you need to watch out for is if you're disattached, you must also be disattached from outcome. So if you're disattached, this does not mean losing intentionality. So you can still attempt to achieve something. Just don't be attached to the method of the achievement or the outcome of the achievement. Because if you intend to accomplish something and you're attached to the method, then even when the method isn't working, you're going to continue using the same method, and then you're going to waste a lot of time. And if you're attached to the outcome, then whenever you attempt to achieve something and you fail, there'll be suffering because you're attached to that outcome. And when you're looking at it from a magical state of mind, being attached to the outcome is the same as lust for results. When you're lusting for results, you end up putting out the energy of the want for the thing rather than the thing itself. And if you're manifesting the want, then that's what you're going to end up getting. If that's the energy you're putting out there, then you're going to manifest the desire to have the thing rather than the thing itself. So if you guys want to understand more about disattachment, um, the Bhagavad Gita is pretty good um, at explaining it and how to remain detached without losing intentionality, without becoming attached to disattachment. And the big difference between most people's understanding of disattachment and mine's is that I'm saying if you're truly not attached to disattachment, then that means that it is okay to be attached sometimes. The thing is, whether you chose to be attached to that thing, completely aware of the consequences, or if you became attached to that thing against your will or without awareness. So, like I said, I'm okay with being attached to my family, to my significant other, my kids, my pet animals, my, those types of things. Now, things that I probably will not become attached to is probably material items. But this can be split into two things because I'm not attached to the material items themselves, but I am attached to a specific quality of life. So, for instance, I think if this is the line and this is everything above it is a good quality of life, and everything beneath it is a bad quality of life, I choose to want the better quality of life. Now, from this position, there are different elements involved because I am not truly attached. It's not like I'm desperate for a good quality of life, but intentionally, I'm going to act in ways to make sure that my quality of life is high rather than low. So yeah, all right, guys, that's pretty much it. So like I said, disattachment saves you a lot of suffering, but this does not mean that you can never be attached. You can allow yourself to be attached to certain things. Just remember that whatever you're attached to has to come from your true will rather than something that's placed on you or something that you stumble into. if you are attached to something without any awareness of it, and you're just completely attached to it against your will, then this is probably one of the types of things that are going to lead to suffering and problems. So, all right, guys, that's pretty much it. Peace out.